Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 196 to 207. Lesson from the Quran, by thinker of the Quran, Allama Ahmad Parwez. My dear brothers, today is May 4th, 1969, and in this new series of Quranic lessons, we begin with verse 196 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Religion versus Deen, the difference in purpose. You will recall that the discussion of the commands related to Hajj has been continuing. Let me repeat. If Islam is unfortunately reduced to the level of religion, then all its pillars become mere rituals. They are performed simply because there is a command to do so. Why must they be done? That question does not arise. In religion, the question why is never asked. The only answer given is for reward. And when one asks, what is reward? The answer again is simply reward. Whether it exists or not, one will only find out after death. But if Islam is understood as deen, a complete system of life, a collective order for humanity, then these so-called pillars and commands become parts of a great program. For each part, the Quran explains why it is prescribed, what outcome it produces, and the first results appear in this very life. This way, one can constantly test whether what was promised actually happens. Then comes the next stage. Since life continues, man carries these results forward, and this ensures that his akhirah, his ultimate destiny, is also shaped positively.
Religion versus Deen, Hajj as a great program. If Hajj is taken at the level of religion, it remains a ritual, a pilgrimage where sins are washed away and reward is gained. But at the level of Deen, it becomes a vital part of a great system. Deen means a system of life in which the foremost purpose is that the community establishing it should attain fid dunya hasana, a beautiful worldly life, full of prosperity, dignity, and well-being. Then this process extends further so that all of humanity benefits. No one should feel isolated, helpless, or deprived. No one should remain needy. This is the system, and its various components are what you call the pillars of Islam. Hajj, in this sense, is the name of a great assembly of humanity, organized by those who establish such a system. As explained earlier, it is not merely a gathering of Muslims. The role of the Muslim community is that of a convener. They organize the assembly and invite global humanity to witness it. The Quran says, لِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِيَ لَهُمْ, so that they may witness benefits for themselves. This is for all mankind, for the whole of humanity. At least once a year there is this great assembly of Hajj, and whenever needed, smaller committees or emergency gatherings take place. These are what you may call Umrah.
Formalities in Hajj gatherings. When the components of Deen are formed, one aspect cannot be ignored. Every reality has both an essence, its spirit, and a form, its visible expression. The spirit must manifest in a tangible form. This form is what we call formalities. Formalities are necessary, especially when something is to be carried out collectively. For example, an individual soldier may wear whatever clothing he likes in private, but when he stands as part of the army, whether in exercises or on the battlefield, he must conform to the prescribed forms, the uniform, the way he stands, walks, sits, and moves. All these must follow a specific discipline. In the same way, for the great assemblies of Hajj, certain formalities are required. These outward forms give visible structure to the inner spirit of unity, discipline, and collective purpose. Collective formation of Deen and psychological transformation. All these things are forms, and in themselves they do not alter the essence. It makes no difference whether a soldier attacks the enemy in white clothes or in uniform. The real purpose is the defense of his homeland, his cause, his ideology. That is the essence. Yet the form becomes necessary because it produces a psychological effect. Through uniformity of form, unity of mindset is created. When soldiers wear the same uniform, each one begins to feel himself as part of a great collective. They are told, for example, to march 10 miles. The purpose is simply to reach the destination, but they are required to march in formation, 4 in a line, steps in rhythm. These are forms, but in collective life, such forms are highly significant. they generate unity, single-mindedness, and emotional solidarity. From these forms arises unity and single-mindedness, and this is connected to human emotions. It creates an emotional solidarity. The Quran has not overlooked this aspect, and that is why in your assemblies certain things are kept formal. Outward forms, formalities, visible symbols. Within them, unity is essential. The emphasis is so strong that some people are physically present in the gathering, while those who cannot attend are told, at least join them in form. This too produces unity and shared purpose. We participate mentally with them, meaning we share in their objective. Hajj as a global conference to untangle humanity's issues. Hajj, as I have explained, is a global conference, a consultation assembly meant to resolve the tangled affairs of humanity. Participation in it serves this very purpose, yet within it there are certain formalities. One special aspect is that in the region and among the people where Islam first appeared, some practices were already in existence. Those practices which were harmful to humanity or against the spirit of Deen were abolished, but those practices which carried no harm and did not contradict the essence of Deen were either retained as they were or modified. In relation to Hajj, the Quran says, وَأَتِمُّوا الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ 2-196. Complete the Hajj and the Umrah. Up to this point, the command is to fulfill these rites completely. Then comes a word which in a single expression distinguishes this gathering from all other gatherings. Quranic terminology and the shift in thinking. This gathering is not just any assembly. With a single word, the actions of the community of believers are distinguished from all others. وَأَتِمُّوا الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ 2-196. The presence of lillah makes it entirely unique. Over time, however, our terminology has been corrupted and its meaning altered. For example, in common speech, one says, "He has enmity with me for Allah's sake." This is taken as the translation of lillah, but in reality it should be understood differently. The Quranic expression carries a far greater meaning. Every action a human performs has two possible motives. One is personal and selfish, done for individual gain. The other is universal, done for the benefit of humanity, with no direct self-interest. Any action of the second kind the Quran calls lillah. The Quran expresses this comprehensively. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say, my prayer, my rites, my living, and my dying are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. In one sentence, the entire philosophy is conveyed. Imagine a community, a nation, and ultimately humanity itself, in which every individual holds this conviction. Whatever I do, whatever I intend, whatever I accomplish, it is not for myself, but for others. This is the transformation that lillah brings.
Harmony of purpose eliminates conflict of interests. You can see how far the matter extends from just a single word. This transformation of mindset is what faith in Allah truly means. It does not imply that life becomes purposeless or without aims. Aims must exist, but the difference is that I fulfill the aim of another, and another fulfills mine. In this way, there is no clash of aims, no conflict of interests. This is the system whose foundation is lillahi, and from here comes lillahiyat, selflessness for the sake of humanity. The Quran says, وَأَتِمُّوا الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ فَإِنْ أُحْصِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ 676. Complete the Hajj and the Umrah for Allah, but if you are prevented, then offer whatever gift of sacrifice is available. If circumstances arise where you cannot personally attend the gathering, then at least align yourself with its lofty purpose. Those who are present there, send them a gift from your side. Their needs will be there, but the word used is hadi, meaning a present, a token of participation. In this way, even from afar, you remain united with them in the same great objective. The true reality of sacrifice at Hajj in the Quranic meaning of hadi. In our tradition, the word hadi has been equated with the sacrificial animal, but in fact, the Quran never uses the word qurbani in this sense. The concept of sacrifice as popularly understood is not Quranic. The reality was simply this. During the great assembly of Hajj, in the barren land of Arabia, especially in Mecca, there was no provision for food and drink. When thousands upon thousands of people arrived, how could arrangements be made? The practical solution was to bring animals along, goats, sheep, camels, which served as a moving store of food. Wherever the need arose, they could be slaughtered and eaten. The Quran instructed,
eat from them yourselves, and also feed the poor residents of Mecca, who lived in great hardship. This was an administrative arrangement for the sustenance of such a massive gathering. Those who could not attend were told to send something from their side as hedi, a gift, a token of participation. In this way, even from afar, they shared in the spirit of unity. The people present had their needs met, and those absent expressed solidarity by sending a present. Thus, hedi in the Quran means a gift or offering, not the ritualistic sacrifice later associated with it. It was a practical provision for food and a symbol of collective harmony.
The significance of time during Hajj for human prosperity. During Hajj, there are certain formalities and forms, and within these forms, the principle is emphasized that all of one's time should be devoted to the purpose for which people have come from distant lands. The instruction is that while present there, do not occupy yourself with personal routines such as shaving or haircutting. For those few days, let such matters go. If one does not shave or cut hair during that period, nothing is lost. The point is that all time should be spent in fulfilling the objective of the assembly. Therefore, during Hajj, refraining from these personal practices ensures that every moment is directed toward the collective mission of human well-being and the higher objectives of Deen. The purpose of formality in Hajj and the meaning of Hadi. During Hajj, participants are instructed not to shave their heads until the Hadi has reached its destination. وَلَا تَحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغُ الْهَدِيُ مَحِلَّهُ 2196. For those who remain behind, the command is to align themselves with the same spirit of unity. Just as gifts are sent to those present, so too should the outward form be observed by refraining from shaving, so that the mind remains connected with the brothers and companions engaged in the collective mission. This formality is meant to cultivate unity of thought and vision. The believer keeps his attention fixed on the gathering, feeling himself part of the same purpose. If someone is ill or suffers from discomfort in the head, then an exception is made. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِنْ رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِنْ صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ فَإِذَا أَمِنْتُمْ 2196. In such cases, one may shave but should offer compensation, fasting for a few days, giving charity, or presenting a gift. These compensations are not ends in themselves. They are symbolic acts that express inner harmony with the collective purpose, giving visible form to the unity of thought and feeling. The real thing is the essence, the spirit. Yet every essence requires a vessel, just as every wine needs a bottle. Every abstract truth, when it comes into action, must appear in a tangible form. Mirza Asadullah Khan Ghalib, 1797 to 1869, expressed this in his own way. Harchand ho mushahada-e haq ki guftagu, banti nahi hai bada wo saghir kehe baghair. The discourse of witnessing truth is about an abstract reality, but when spoken of, it must be conveyed through perceptible metaphors. These perceptible metaphors are what you call formalities. However, the danger arises when the wine is gone and only the empty cup remains. Then the cup itself becomes the focus, and the form is mistaken as the ultimate purpose. The Quran addresses this by saying, فَمَنْ تَمَكْتَى بِالْعُمْرَةِ إِلَى الْحَجِّ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْحَدِّ فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم تلك 10 كاملة ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضري المسجد الحرام 2196. These are the formalities. When peace is established, then 3 days of fasting during Hajj and 7 days after returning, making 10 complete. This applies to those who are not residents of the sacred mosque. Here the outward forms are mentioned, the visible symbols, but always with the reminder that the essence, the spirit, is the true purpose.
Divine warning against reducing Hajj to mere rituals. The Quran makes it clear that one must never mistake the outward forms as the ultimate purpose. It says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ 296. Be mindful of Allah and know that Allah is severe in punishment. The true objective is the safeguarding of God's laws. If this is ignored and the focus shifts only to observing formalities and completing rituals, then instead of reward, such actions bring accountability.
The Quran warns that God's grip in this matter is firm and severe. The essence must remain the preservation of divine law, not the empty performance of rituals. My dear friends, the warning is before our eyes. Today, gatherings of 1,400,000 people take place during Hajj. The entire Ummah spends vast amounts of wealth on it. Leave aside the individual hardships of travel and difficulties faced by each pilgrim. Collectively, immense time and resources are consumed. And after all this, what is the outcome? In the very heart of Arabia lies a narrow strip of land, which you call the State of Israel. That small line has become a deep wound for them, a source of constant anguish. For them, it is already a minor apocalypse, a Qiyamah-e-Sughra. And when you look at their ambitions, it is clear that this minor apocalypse is on the path to becoming a Qiyamah-e-Kubra.
Why are the prayers of our gatherings not accepted? From Morocco to the Arab lands, all the Arab states stretch up to Hijaz. In their midst lies only a narrow strip of land, whose population began with 1,400,000 and has now reached at most 2,800,000, equal to the population of a single city. Yet this small line has tormented them, causing constant anguish. For this, representatives from across the world gather in Hajj, 13 to 1,400,000 strong. And what happens after such a massive assembly? There prayers are offered. O Allah, let Israel's cannons be ruined. Unleash your wrath upon them. Destroy them. Annihilate them. These prayers continue, but Israel continues to flourish, to grow, and to expand. My dear friends, is there any stronger explanation of Anallaha Shadidul Iqab 296 than what we see before us? People claim the Quran lacks coherence, that the command Wattaqu Laha appears suddenly in the midst of the discussion on Hajj. Yet look at the reality. In the plain of Arafat, pilgrims gather, listen to the sermon, and then hear voices declaring, "Your Hajj is accepted, you are purified as born anew." 1,400,000 representatives of the Muslim world assemble, and what follows? The same prayers that are repeated every Friday and every Eid. O Allah, destroy Israel, ruin their weapons, devastate their lands. These prayers have been uttered for centuries, yet their strength grows, their unity solidifies, their lands flourish, while the number of pilgrims increases year after year. This is why the Quran declares, Anallaha Shadidul Iqab 296. The severity of divine accountability is manifest when the essence of Hajj is ignored and only its rituals are performed. My dear friends, the evidence of divine accountability is visible before us. In Hajj, gatherings of millions take place, and the entire Ummah spends vast sums of wealth. Each individual bears the hardship of travel, but collectively, enormous resources are consumed. And what happens to this wealth? It flows into limited concerns, into systems of agents and companies, into those who profit from the pilgrimage industry. Tens of pilgrims' wealth is pooled together, and it is spent on luxuries, even trivialities such as a woman visiting Beirut for hairdressing. Crores of rupees are absorbed in this cycle. The Quran warns, Anallaha Shadidul Iqab 296. Allah is severe in punishment. And further, Fa'ulaika habitat amaluhum 218. Their deeds are rendered void. The deeds are performed, hardships endured, wealth expended, but the outcome is nullified. This is the most vivid form of habtul amal, the wasting of deeds. Pilgrims return believing their sins are washed away, carrying bundles of supposed forgiveness. Yet in reality, when the spirit of Hajj is ignored and only its rituals are pursued, the result is futility. The essence is lost, and what remains is an empty form.
Time of Hajj gatherings according to needs. The Quran warns that if rituals are taken as the true purpose, then Anallaha Shadidul Iqab, Allah is severe in punishment. Immediately after this, it says, Al-Hajju Ashhurum Ma'lumatun. Hajj is in months well known. This means that the months of Hajj must be known and announced. In your tradition, the time of Hajj is fixed and familiar, but here the Quran emphasizes that it should be something publicly declared so that everyone is informed.
The wording suggests that the timing of this global gathering was to be determined according to the needs of the age and then announced worldwide. Thus, Ashhurun Ma'lumatun indicates that the months of Hajj must be publicly known. If the time is to remain fixed, then it is included in known months. But if the needs of the community require flexibility, then each year the timing of the gathering should be decided and announced with wide publicity so that the entire world is aware of when the assembly will take place. Etiquette and discipline in the Hajj gathering. The Quran says, فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Whoever undertakes Hajj in these months, let there be no indecent speech, no misconduct, and no disputing during Hajj. This command highlights the lofty purpose of the gathering. The first requirement is that those who attend must demonstrate refinement and dignity so that observers recognize it as the assembly of a noble and civilized people. The word rafatha refers to any speech or action that falls below the standard of respectability. Nothing of that kind should occur so that the conduct and conversation of the pilgrims reflect true nobility. The Quran says, فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Here, the word fusuqa is used. The basic meaning of fisk is like a fruit that develops and matures inside its peel. If the peel bursts open prematurely and the fruit comes out crooked, it becomes spoiled, infested, and useless. In the same way, when a human being departs from the prescribed framework of personality and moves in another direction, this is called fisk in Arabic. In common usage today, fasik and fajr are taken simply to mean sinner, but in Quranic terminology they carry a much deeper significance. Fujur comes from fajr, meaning to split or break open. Any act that causes the disintegration of a person's personality is fujur. Fisk is when one leaves the protective pattern of development and deviates elsewhere. The Quran commands that during the Hajj gathering, no act should occur that takes you outside the prescribed pattern, nor any behavior that causes deviation from the framework set for you.
وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. No argumentation in Hajj. The Quran says, وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ 2:197, and no disputing during Hajj. In this great gathering, important matters will come up for discussion. Jidal means turning discussions into unnecessary disputes, debates, or quarrels. It is said, do not begin arguments, do not start polemics, and do not fall into contention. In such assemblies, when discussions take place, each person often insists on his own point of view, stressing it repeatedly. One begins with, in my humble opinion, and if the decision goes against that opinion, he walks away and forms another group. This is jidal. The Quran commands that in this great gathering, do not carry such attitudes. Do not insist that only your view must be accepted. Do not quarrel among yourselves, and do not let discussions turn into disputes. It continues, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ 2:197. Whatever good you do, Allah knows it. The focus should be on actions that expand your capacities and strengthen your collective mission. The Quran says, وَتَزَوَّدُوا 2:197, and take provision. This verse has often been given a peculiar interpretation. People set out for Hajj and begin begging even before departure. My life is nearing its end. I don't know how long I will live. I have one lifelong desire to perform Hajj, but I have no provision, no money. Is there anyone who will help me? From this practice came the concept of Hajj Ibadel. I must go to Rawalpindi for a task, but you go in my place. Thus, money is given to beggars to perform Hajj on behalf of others. Some even attempt to travel without means, sneaking aboard ships, hiding in engine rooms, saying, a Hajj kurenteliehuene.
وَتَزَوَّدُوا. Take provision. 2:197. The Quran says, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى وَاتَّقُونِي يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ 2:197. And take provision, but indeed the best provision is taqwa, so be mindful of me, O people of understanding. People often misinterpret this. Many set out for Hajj without resources, begging along the way. I am old, I don't know how long I will live. I have one desire to perform Hajj, but I have no money. Some even rely on Hajj Bedel, sending others in their place with money. Others attempt to travel without means, sneaking aboard ships or planes. The Quran commands, وَتَزَوَّدُوا.
Take provision before you set out. Do not put yourself in humiliation by begging or depending on others. Then it says, فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. The best provision is taqwa. The true meaning of taqwa is protection, safeguarding oneself. Thus, provision ensures you are protected from disgrace and hardship. Finally, وَاتَّقُونِ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ 2.197. Be mindful of me, O people of understanding. This appeals to human reason. Any rational person knows that when embarking on a journey, one must carry the necessary provisions to avoid humiliation and suffering. Hajj, a global assembly for solving the Ummah's issues. My dear friends, here lies the essence. Religion came to guide, yet today Hajj is seen merely as an act of worship for reward. In prayer at the mosque, worldly matters are set aside. How much more so in Hajj, the greatest of gatherings, there should be no question of worldly concerns. But look at our misfortune. In recent times, newspapers reported a conference in Kuala Lumpur where representatives of Islamic countries gathered. 14, 19, or however many states participated. Great pride was taken in this, that Muslim nations came together. Yet this was hailed as something extraordinary, while the true global gathering ordained by God, Hajj, was reduced to a ritual for merit. When one journal once titled Hajj as All-World Muslim Conference, a verdict of disbelief was issued. Thus, Hajj had to be separated from conferences, and conferences held apart. Their highlight is always announced. Did they discuss Kashmir? The answer, no, it was about religious matters. And what are those religious matters? Debating trivialities such as the size of a turban. This shows the decline. Hajj, meant to be the supreme world assembly of Islam to resolve pressing issues, has been stripped of its purpose and confined to ritual, while worldly conferences are celebrated as achievements.
The helplessness of Al-Fatah during Hajj. My dear friends, reflect on how the mindset has shifted. What was the issue there? The oppressed members of Al-Fatah thought that since so many brothers were gathering, with representatives of entire states present, they could come forward and share their pain. Mir jama hai ehbab darde dil keh lo. They came to express their anguish, but it was their mistake. Entry was denied. They were told it was forbidden to go inside. Why? Because they would raise political matters. Yet from the pulpit and stage, voices cry out, in Islam, religion and world and hereafter, politics and faith, all are one, there is no duality. This lofty rhetoric continues, but in practice the reality is different. Conferences are held and it is said only religious issues were discussed. Thus, even in a gathering like Hajj, which should have been the supreme conference of the Ummah, worldly issues are excluded. The contradiction is clear. In theory, Islam admits no separation between religion and politics, but in practice political voices are silenced, and Hajj is reduced to ritual. Hajj a great purpose, not a mere ritual. Hajj is not simply the name of a formal gathering. It is a means to achieve a profound purpose. The Quran reminds us of its commands. Wattaqullah, fear Allah, embrace piety. Alongside this, it declares, Laysa alaykum junahun an tabtaghu fadlam min rabbikum, 2:198. This is not a mere religious congregation, it is a gathering where discussions of livelihood, economics and prosperity are permitted and even encouraged. Seeking the bounty of your Lord is no sin. For centuries people misunderstood Hajj as only a ritual of worship, a place to collect reward. Yet the Quran clarified long ago that worldly benefit is not forbidden. Pilgrims often return saying, Zalika fadlu min Allah, acknowledging that Hajj itself is tied to the bounty of the Lord. The Quran established this 1400 years ago. There is no harm in seeking economic advantage during Hajj. But let us not forget the balance. The Quran also commands, فَإِذَا أَفَدْتُم مِّنْ عَرَفَاتٍ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ عِنْدَ الْمَشْعَرِ الْحَرَامِ 2:198. In the plain of Arafat, pilgrims gather, sit together and listen to the Imam at Jabal al-Rahma. Ritual words are recited and announcements are made that the Hajj has been accepted. Yet the essence is not in the mere formality of these acts, but in the remembrance of Allah and the pursuit of His bounty. Sadly, what remains today is often only the outward form. The ritual continues but the spirit has faded. As the poet lamented, Reh gayi rasme azan, ruhe bilali na rahi.
The story of Adam and Eve's separation and reunion. The rituals of Hajj remind us of a deeper story. Pilgrims gather at Arafat, then move to Mina, staying there for 3 days, offering sacrifices and performing the rites. But behind these rituals lies a tale connected to the very beginning of humanity. When Adam and Eve were sent down from paradise, they descended together, but soon became separated.
Like a child lost in the crowd of a festival, they wandered apart. Adam wept for thousands of years, and Eve too cried in longing. There were no roads, no signs, no one to ask for directions. They roamed the earth in sorrow, searching for one another. It is said that this separation lasted 10,000 years. Adam wandered, Eve wandered, both in grief and solitude. Then, by the will of Allah, their paths finally crossed. They met again in a vast plain, and there they recognized each other. That place became known as Arafat, from Arafah, meaning recognition or acquaintance, because it was the site of their reunion after ages of longing. The consequence of ignoring the meaning of Arafat. My dear friends, Arafat was meant to be something great. It is the place where representatives of the entire Muslim world gather together. The very first purpose of this gathering should be introduction, mutual recognition, and acquaintance. In Arabic, this is called Arafat, from ta'araf, meaning to know one another. The plain of Arafat is the place where people should meet, recognize, and connect with each other. But what is the condition today? Pilgrims arrive at Arafat and scatter in such a way that they cannot even find one another. The recognition that should have taken place is forgotten. Ask those returning from Hajj, did you truly meet and know your fellow Muslims there? Did you establish bonds of understanding? This gathering represents the entire Muslim world. The beginning of Hajj is here, not in the rituals of circumambulation alone, but in the spirit of unity. In this plain, there should be mutual introduction, followed by collective organization. A leader chosen for the session should stand and announce the agenda, and then there should be discussion and deliberation upon it.
Consultation at Mina after the program of Arafat. After completing the gathering at Arafat, the pilgrims return and assemble at Mina. They remain there for at least 3 days. It is here that the agenda announced at Arafat is to be discussed collectively. The arrangement is such that everyone is gathered, but not all are occupied with cooking or daily chores. For example, it may be decided that the representatives of one region will provide the evening meal, so that the rest can devote themselves to the discussions of the program. The Quran says, فَإِذَا أَفَضْتُم مِّنْ عَرَفَاتٍ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ عِنْدَ الْمَشْعَرِ الْحَرَامِ 298. This is the station of Mash'ar al-Haram, the sacred place where people are to sit together and deliberate with intellect and understanding. Here, reflection and consultation are required. Yet in practice, whenever فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ is mentioned, people hastily take up prayer beads, thinking it means only verbal remembrance or striking the heart in ritual. But observe the context. It is about bringing forth the agenda, presenting the program, and reflecting upon it in light of the purposes given by God. The sanctity of Mash'ar al-Haram lies in maintaining respect and reverence within the heart at all times, while engaging in thoughtful consultation and collective decision-making.
Hajj is not a fair of the age of ignorance. What a lofty and dignified purpose it is for which we gather here. The Quran says, وَاذْكُرُوهُ كَمَا هَدَاكُمْ وَإِن كُنْتُم مِّن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الضَّالِّينَ 2198. As you have been guided, so must you now sit and deliberate upon these matters. Before this guidance, in the age of ignorance, people had reduced Hajj to a mere festival, but this is not its reality. The verse reminds us, وَإِن كُنْتُم مِّن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الضَّالِّينَ. Before this, you were astray, unaware of the true purpose. Now, with divine guidance, Hajj has been given its rightful meaning. In earlier times, Hajj was the forum where universal matters of the state were discussed. Some issues were local, but those concerning the entire Ummah were brought to this gathering. History records that during the era of the rightly guided caliphate, especially under Caliph Umar, 634 to 645 or 45 AD, Hajj served as a platform for consultation and resolution. Even major cases of international importance, what we might today call matters for an international court, were discussed and settled during Hajj. Disputes between governors, conflicts between provinces or empires, all were brought to this sacred assembly for resolution.
Thus, Hajj is not a carnival of the age of ignorance, but a grand council of unity, guidance, and collective decision-making. Do not let Hajj breed arrogance. The Quran commands, وَاذْكُرُوهُ كَمَا هَدَاكُمْ وَإِن كُنْتُم مِّن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الضَّالِّينَ 2198. Remember Allah as He has guided you, for before this guidance you were astray. And then it says, ثُمَّ أَفِيضُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَفَاضَ النَّاسُ. After completing the rites, return as ordinary people return. Do not let arrogance enter your hearts. Do not think that because you have performed Hajj, you are now above others. The Quran reminds us, you are no different, no special wings have been granted to you. Instead, it commands, وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا اللَّهَ. Seek Allah's protection constantly, lest you slip. Inna Allaha ghafurun rahim. Indeed, Allah's law provides both protection and growth. And when you have completed your rites, the Quran says, فَإِذَا قَضَيْتُم مَنَاسِكَكُمْ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَذِكْرِكُمْ آبَاءَكُمْ أَوْ أَشَدَّ ذِكْرًا. In religious gatherings, people often recount the stories of ancestors and the deeds of elders. But here, the command is different. Do not gather merely to narrate the past. Instead, remember Allah's law with even greater intensity than you once remembered your forefathers. This is the true purpose of Hajj, not pride, not vanity, but remembrance of God and adherence to His guidance.
The meaning of dhikr in the light of the Quran. The Quran makes clear that dhikr does not mean mere repetition of words or ritual chants. In its guidance, dhikr refers to discussion and reflection upon the divine laws, the system ordained by Allah, and the principles that govern human life. This is not an interpretation born of personal opinion, for to speak from oneself against the Quran would be shirk. It is the direct text of the Quran itself. After completing the rites, the Quran says, فَاذْكُرُوا remember Allah. The continuation of the verse explains, فَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ. Among people are those who say, Our Lord, grant us in this world, but they have no share in the hereafter. And others say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. These are the ones who will receive a portion of what they earn, for Allah is swift in reckoning. Then it commands, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ فِي أَيَّامٍ مَعْدُودَاتٍ. Reflect upon these words. Remembrance here is tied to specific days, to deliberate reflection, to conscious engagement with God's law. The command, فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ, appears first, and within the sequence of these verses, the Quran clarifies its intent. It is not mere ritual repetition, but reflection upon the divine law. Understand that when Allah says, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ, it refers to discourse on His system, His guidance, and His laws. There are people whose focus is only on the physical laws of nature, the scientific principles that govern the material world. Their aim is confined to worldly benefits, to conquering this life alone. The Quran says of them, مَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ. They have no share in the hereafter. Thus, the remembrance of Allah must not be like theirs. This is a profound truth. Even a scientist, when engaged in research, is in fact remembering Allah, for he is studying the laws of God. But the believer's dhikr goes beyond physical laws. It encompasses the divine system that guides both worldly life and eternal destiny.
Divine laws for human life. My dear friends, these are the points where the truth shines forth. The Quran provides a complete code of life. In the realm of religion, worldly affairs and worldly objectives are often dismissed as irrelevant. On the other hand, in what is called the secular system, the ultimate aim is worldly benefit and material gain. Between these two lies a third path, the system of God. It is neither religion in the narrow sense, nor secularism in the worldly sense. It is a comprehensive order that embraces all aspects of human life. In the religious mindset, worldly concerns are looked upon with disdain. Terms like worldly matters, man of the world, or worldly talk are used with contempt. Yet the Quran, in its wisdom, has given laws considering every dimension of human existence, ensuring that both worldly needs and eternal purposes are harmonized under the divine system. You see how worldly matters are treated with contempt.
It appears as though God has no connection with them, as if his domain is only the realm of religion. When people speak of Allah's people, they are imagined as those who have no clothes to wear, no food to eat, no shelter to live in. This is considered the hallmark of piety. This perception is deeply influenced by the Christian concept that matter and the material world are inherently detestable, and that the ultimate goal of human life is salvation in the hereafter. That notion penetrated our veins so deeply that we too began to think that speaking of worldly objectives and worldly affairs is against religion. To discuss livelihood, society, or material needs became something frowned upon. Thus, the idea took root that Allah's people must be divorced from worldly concerns, living in deprivation, when in reality, the Quran presents a system where divine law encompasses both worldly life and eternal destiny.
The greatness of the Quran, laws for every aspect of life. My dear friends, the Quran declares astonishing truths. It tells us that what you call the laws of nature are also the laws of God. These laws of nature are not man-made, they are divine. To research them, to discuss them, to apply them in practice, all of this is part of God's program. To follow them is to follow his will, and whoever does so receives his support and assistance. Yet the Quran also makes clear that life does not end with the physical laws alone. Beyond them, there is another set of rules, laws that pertain to the human self, to the inner dimensions of life. Only when these are kept alongside the laws of nature does life reach completion. Otherwise, the picture remains incomplete. Thus, engaging in research, discussion, and application of the laws of nature is indeed part of the divine program, but it must be joined with the laws that govern human character and destiny. This is the greatness of the Quran. It addresses every aspect of human existence, harmonizing the material and the spiritual into one complete system of life. My dear friends, observe how beautifully the Quran explains the balance of life. It says, "Man kana yuridul ajilata, ajjalna lahu fiha ma nasha'u liman nurid." Whoever desires immediate worldly gain, we grant him of it according to our will. Thus, even worldly benefits that come through following the laws of nature are in fact granted by God, for they too are part of his system. But the verse continues, ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَا لَهُ جَهَنَّمَ يَصْلَاهُ مَذْمُومًا مَدْحُورًا. If one's vision is limited only to this world, then though he may receive some portion here, his future will be darkness and destruction. He will be cast aside, rejected, and his life will end in despair. On the other hand, the Quran says, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُمْ مَشْكُورًا. Whoever desires the hereafter, strives for it with effort, and believes in the truth of God's laws, his striving will be acknowledged, his efforts will bear fruit, his deeds will yield results, and his struggle will be rewarded.
Humanity divided into two groups. My dear friends, the Quran declares, كُلًّا نُمِدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ مِنْ عَطَاءِ رَبِّكَ وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا. 17:20. This is a truth that only God can state with such clarity, whether it is one group or the other, whether disbelievers or believers, all are sustained by the bounty of your Lord. The provisions of life spread across the table of the universe are not restricted. Whoever follows the laws of nature receives their results. If Abdullah tills the soil according to the divine law of cultivation, his crop will grow. If Sant Singh does the same, his crop will also grow. The law does not discriminate. But if Abdullah neglects the law, his field will remain barren, while Sant Singh's will flourish. God's law of generosity in worldly treasures. My dear friends, reflect upon the next portion of the verse. وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا. 17:20. Whatever is called a divine gift once granted is not fenced off. It does not befit God to provide sustenance for his creation and then place barriers saying one may pass while another may not. If it were so, he would not be Rabb, the one who nurtures and sustains. The bounty of the Lord cannot be restricted. His provisions are spread across the universe without discrimination. Then the Quran says, "Undur kayfa faddalna ba'dahum ala ba'd." 17:21. Look at how we have favored some over others. Observe the nations of the world.
Many of those you call disbelievers have advanced because they follow the laws of nature. This is living testimony before your eyes. You came with complaints asking why others receive so much, but the Lord of all worlds does not place barriers upon his bounty. It does not befit him to spread provisions across creation and then restrict them, saying one may pass while another may not. His gifts are open. His sustenance is free for all. Look around and see how nations advance, how they surpass one another. This is proof that the bounty of the Lord is not fenced off.
Yet the Quran reminds, وَلَلْآخِرَةُ أَكْبَرُ دَرَجَاتٍ وَأَكْبَرُ تَفْضِيلًا. The hereafter holds far greater ranks and far greater distinctions. In this world one may gain benefits, but if he also strives for the future, for the eternal purpose, then he will attain both. He will succeed not only in optional matters, but also in the compulsory ones. The one who seeks only the world passes in optional subjects alone, while the one who seeks both the world and the hereafter passes in both compulsory and optional. This is the true distinction, the higher degree, the greater favor. My dear friends, the Quran makes it clear that there is no contradiction between the laws of nature and the laws that govern human life. Both are part of the same divine system. To accept one and reject the other is to fragment the unity of God's law, and the result of such duality is destruction. The Quran warns, لا تجعل مع الله إلها آخر فتقعد مثموما مخذولا. Do not set up another authority alongside Allah, for then you will be left condemned and forsaken. This means, do not establish two sets of laws, one for the physical world and another for human society, as if they come from different sources. To do so is shirk. If you create duality, if you divide life into two separate systems, you will be rejected and cast aside. The Quran likens the state to a lamb separated from its flock, seized by wolves, helpless, abandoned, and destroyed. Thus, the divine law is one, encompassing both the natural order and the social order. To follow part of it and deny the other is to break its unity, and the consequence is ruin. My dear friends, here lies the essence. To make another ilah means to accept two sources of law. In the sphere of nature, you cannot create your own law. There is no choice there. Whatever you sow, that is what grows. The choice was given in your social life, in your collective existence. Here you may either follow God's laws or adopt man-made laws. If you follow God's laws, then it is Tawheed, unity. One law governs both the natural and the social spheres. But if you adopt human-made laws in society while acknowledging divine law in nature, you create duality. The Quran warns against this duality. Whoever unites both spheres under one divine law will receive the bounty of the Lord in this world and a radiant future in the hereafter. But if you divide life, accepting the laws of nature yet rejecting God's laws for human society, then though worldly benefits will still come, for God does not block his bounty, the other part of life becomes hell. This duality leads to ruin, for the unity of divine law is broken.
3 human categories according to the Quran. Brothers and sisters, the Quran divides humanity into 3 categories. The first are those who have conquered only the laws of nature. They reached from the earth to the skies, even to the moon and the sun. Yet in human life, they made their own laws into a law. They gained worldly benefits, but the future of humanity for them is hell. This is what we see in the nations of the West today. The second are those who mastered the forces of nature and at the same time applied their results according to God's laws of social life, revealed through Wahi and preserved in the Quran. They attained worldly success, and their future remained radiant and bright. The Quran calls them the community of mu'mineen. The third are those who neither followed the laws of nature nor the divine laws of human life. The Quran says, خَسِرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْخُسْرَانُ الْمُبِينُ 22:11. They lost both the world and the afterlife, and that is the clear and manifest loss. Brothers and sisters, do not ask me, ask yourselves. Ask the pages of history, which the Quran has described, فَتَقْعُدَ مَثْمُومًا مَخْذُولًا. This will be your condition if you create duality. I was explaining that when the Quran commands dhikrullah, it means come together and then engage in remembrance of Allah.
Notice the connection here, where others see disjointedness. After dhikrullah, the Quran says, فَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ 2200. You will see two categories of people. The first are those who make worldly benefits and demands their sole objective. For them, there is no share in the afterlife. Then it says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَن يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ 2201. The second group are those whose efforts in the sphere of nature are acknowledged and whose future is radiant and bright. These are the believers. And further, أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا كَسَبُوا 2202. Their reward is not because they carried the name of Dalla or any other. It is because of what they earned, what they strove for, what they acted upon. The result is that both worlds become luminous for them, their present and their future.
The Quranic concept of Sari'ul Hisab. Brothers and sisters, the Quran declares, Wallahu Sari'ul Hisab 202. Remember this well. Our usual perception is that the reckoning of deeds will take place only in the hereafter, on the day of judgment, when the scales are set, good and evil are weighed, and then paradise or hell is assigned. That is what we call Yawm al-Hisab. But here the Quran says Allah is swift in reckoning. What does this mean? It means that the results of your actions begin to manifest immediately in this life. The consequences of following or ignoring divine law are not postponed until the end of time. They appear here and now. When you act according to God's guidance, worldly benefits come alongside eternal ones. This is Sari'ul Hisab, God's swift accounting. Think of it as entering a bank. The moment you inquire, your balance is shown. You know exactly where you stand. In the same way, the Quran tells us that the outcomes of our deeds are reflected in our present life, while their ultimate fulfillment awaits in the hereafter. Wallahu Sari'ul Hisab. God is the one who brings forth results without delay.
Brothers and sisters, the Quran begins with Wadhkurullaha, the remembrance of Allah. Then it says, Wadhkurullaha fi ayamin madudatin 203, meaning in the appointed, numbered days. These are the days of Hajj, when humanity gathers from every corner of the world. In these assemblies, remembrance of Allah is not mere ritual. It is to focus intensely on the challenges and problems of humanity, to concentrate on them collectively under divine guidance. Immediately after this, the Quran provides direction for time and management. فَمَنْ تَأَجَّلَ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ وَمَنْ تَأَخَّرَ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى 203. If someone has only 2 days available because of pressing responsibilities, there is no blame in departing early. If someone has more time and can stay longer, that too is acceptable. Brothers and sisters, the Quran says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَعْلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ 203. The matter is not whether you stay for 2 days or 10 days. The real question is how the discussions and deliberations about God's law and the efforts to shape them into practical measures are brought to completion. Remember this, you are responsible, but not merely to your state or your nation. You are responsible to God. Whatever you do, it is for Him. Your accountability is before Him. Think deeply. What will you present to Him? What actions will you show? What intentions will you declare? Your vision must remain fixed on this purpose. The ultimate destination of your gathering, the final goal of your collective effort, is what your Lord has determined for you. Your steps must move toward Him. Wherever the Quran says, Ilayhi raji'un, or Ilayhi tuhsharun, this is its meaning, that your return, your accountability, your responsibility is to God alone.
Those who wear the cloak of falsehood in the guise of truth. Brothers and sisters, here comes another category, and it is indeed striking. Their entire purpose is worldly gain, yet they are born into a nation that is religious, that calls itself Muslim, that wishes to hear the name of Islam. What strategy do they adopt? Once it was said, honesty is the best policy, meaning honesty should be chosen as a principle, for it brings benefit. But here emerges another policy. Islam is the best policy, meaning the best way to achieve worldly ends is to keep invoking the name of Islam. The Quran says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُعْجِبُكَ قَوْلُهُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا 204. Let me tell you of this category. The earlier group openly denied God, revelation, eternal values, and the afterlife. They did not deceive themselves nor others. They plainly declared that worldly interests were their goal, and they reaped the results accordingly. But this group is different. They claim faith in God, revelation, and the afterlife. Yet in their hearts, they do not truly believe in their truth. Their real objective remains worldly benefit. To prevent the masses from turning away, they intensify the display of religion, loudly proclaiming their Islamic services, beating the drum of piety. They insist that even in social and political life, God's laws are clear. Yet their motive is not sincerity, but policy, using religion as a cloak to secure worldly advantage. This is that other category.
Those who amaze with worldly speech, but hide enmity. अरे दिल, ये तो अपनी दास्तां मालूम होती है. Brothers and sisters, the Quran describes a group whose worldly statements astonish you. قَوْلُهُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Their speeches, their declarations, their resolutions leave you in wonder. Why? Because their entire aim is worldly benefit. Yet they swear by God to prove sincerity. وَيُشْهِدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا فِي قَلْبِهِ. They invoke Allah at every step, claiming their actions are for Islam, for the Muslim community, for God Himself. But the Quran reveals their reality. وَهُوَ أَلَدُّ الْخِصَامِ. They are the most bitter of enemies. Outwardly, they show no violence, no aggression, no hostility. Their words appear refined, persuasive, even pious. Yet within, their hearts are filled with enmity and opposition. This is why the Quran's term is so striking. They do not appear violent or aggressive, yet their hidden hostility is far more dangerous than open aggression. Brothers and sisters, the Quran continues, وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلَ. Their words amaze you, invoking God at every step, swearing that all is for Islam, for the Muslim community, for Allah Himself. Yet when authority falls into their hands, when they sit upon the throne, their efforts spread corruption across the land. Economic life is destroyed, resources are wasted, and generations of humanity are ruined. All those oaths, all those claims made in God's name vanish once power is theirs. The Quran declares, وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَسَادِ. God does not love corruption, nor does He approve of devastation and ruin in society. Then it says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُ اتَّقِ اللَّهِ. When reminded, you used to invoke God at every step, now respect His laws. He admits inwardly that it is true. But أَخَذَتْهُ الْعِزَّةُ بِالْإِثْمِ. False prestige, arrogance and pride in sin prevent him from reform. Instead of correction, he is driven further into corruption.
Brothers and sisters, the Quran reveals a profound psychological reality. أَخَذَتْهُ الْعِزَّةُ بِالْإِثْمِ 2:206. The intoxication of power, the arrogance of false prestige prevents people from reform. Instead of turning towards correction, they are driven further into corruption. Reflect deeply. How many people do we see in the world who openly walk the wrong path, who commit injustice and deceit? In their hearts they know it is wrong. They feel it, yet they do not change. What holds them back? It is izzatul ithm, the pride of sin, the false sense of honor, the ego that refuses to bow before truth. The Quran declares their end. فَحَسْبُهُ جَهَنَّمُ وَلَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادُ 2:206. Their destiny is the destruction of hell, the place where humanity is crushed. What a terrible abode it is. But opposite to them stands another category. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ 2:207. These are the people who set aside worldly gains, who even offer their very lives in pursuit of God's pleasure. Their wealth, their existence, their very being, all are placed in service of divine law. And the Quran assures, وَاللَّهُ رَؤُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ
2:7. For such servants, God provides the means of growth with tenderness and mercy. They are nurtured with love, for they have surrendered themselves entirely to his path. Brothers and sisters, we have now reached verse 207 of Surah Al-Baqarah. The Quran has shown us the contrast. On one side are those who are driven by arrogance and false prestige, blocked from reform even when they know the truth. On the other side are those who surrender themselves entirely for the pleasure of Allah, even offering their very lives in his path. Next, the Quran will describe the condition of those who truly believe in one God, who hold firmly to one Ilah. Their qualities will be laid out, and then history itself will testify to the truth of these words. That evidence we will take up in the coming discussion. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ